Leafs talk. Justin Bourne, Sam McKee. I'm JD Bunkis. Leafs lose Game 3 to the Boston Bruins. Give home ice back. They tie it late in the hockey game. There's a ton of hope, a ton of optimism. Probably a lot of loud noises in Toronto, only for heartbreak to ensue less than a minute later as Brad Marchand puts the game winner. Tough one for the Leafs tonight. Physical game, tough game. But Justin, let's start with you. What was the story of the night for you?
I thought it was a well played, and you can say a boring defensive game from both sides. There wasn't much either way. I thought both coaches would have loved that game for the first 40 minutes for sure. And, comes down to special teams. One team's goalie doesn't make a couple of saves and the other team's does. It's hate to oversimplify, but that's where it's at.
Yeah, this is a extremely tight series where these games are all going to be like this, I feel. Both teams are playing really well defensively. I thought the Leafs for most of the game tonight played as well defensively on 5-on-5 as I can remember them playing in this whole era. It was lockdown stuff, comes down to special teams, and it comes down to the Bruins captain rising to the occasion. Big assist on the power play, getting it on net for DeBrus to fire in the goal and then scoring the winner. It's just he rose the occasion, and the Leafs stars, I guess they didn't. Marner gets the assist on one of the goals, but outside of that, not a lot from them. Their stars do, and away we go here, boys. So, yeah, tough one. I would be lying if I said that wasn't a gut puncher.
Yeah, that was a gut punch, especially since there's a couple reasons for this one, but I think primarily Toronto gets that tie, and you go, okay, like you didn't. To me, they didn't play their best hockey. I know what you're saying about the D zone coverages today. Like they mostly kept Boston outside. Like the Bruins had 33 shots, but how many of those were uber threatening, right? Like the Marchand goal is beautifully placed. The power play goal is obviously a high danger one. I actually think Samsonov's best saves came in the first period. Like Toronto was a little scrambly. They take that penalty right out of the gate where Benoit just flips a puck over the glass, like total brain dead stuff. Samsonov makes a couple of saves for them, but they didn't really have to lean on him too much the rest of the game. Like this was not a typical, 30 save performance. I think the thing for me is this the style of game the Leafs feel like they're best suited to beat Boston playing? Because to me, this kind of feels like if you're the more talented team and you're supposed to be built on secondary scoring, like if you're going to say who's going to win the 3-2 hockey game most of the nights or the 2-1 hockey game most nights, is it going to be the Leafs or is it going to be the Boston Bruins?
Yeah, it's a fair question. In particular, when the other team's goaltender is better, like the Frederick one, that goal is a killer, guys. Like lots is going, the energy's up in the building there. Marchand and Bertuzzi are going at it, and he just shoots it in.
Yeah.
At any point, did you feel like they could shoot one past Swayman? Absolutely not. So, yeah, JD, I guess it's not exactly tailor-made for them, but this is where, and I text you guys this, they really missed Willie tonight. Because when you're in a close, tight checking game and everyone's protecting the house, he's the type of guy who can make people miss and break it open. So I don't know that without Nylander, they're that much more talented. They're more talented, but I don't know if they're that much more.
Yeah, that goal clearly is a massive turning point in the game and changes it totally because the Leafs were playing great. They get that lead finally. I hate to bring up ref talk 2 minutes into the show here. But the non-call on Matthews that leads to the space-time continuum of them going down and shooting that puck in the net is one of the most egregious non-calls you're ever going to see. He grabs him by the hip, puts his legs into the back of him, referee's staring right at it, and it's hard not to sit here and say that if the penalties had been 1-1 or 1-0 or not 3-1 to that point, that the arm doesn't go up immediately, and that's what drives you crazy. It's a clear game management situation. Simmer's talking about how they should have blown the play dead with Marchand and Bertuzzi both going at it. There's multiple times where the refs insert themselves there. And I don't want to say it's the whole reason they lost. They clearly were terrible, but that leads to a massive moment in the game where it's just a total blown call. How do you not call that in an NHL hockey game? You're staring right at it. It's one of the best players in the league gets hauled down. It's a joke. I'm sorry. It's an absolute joke. I thought the Leafs got a good whistle for the rest of the night. They got 5 power plays, but that one to me, it just changed the entire game. I can't believe they didn't call it. Still sitting here watch it.
Yeah, I don't mind them not blowing the play dead when Marchand and Bertuzzi were taking
Sure.
turns at who could dive the most. Like they
That was
were
a
just
dive. That
literally
was a
being like,
dive contest.
it was like two clowns doing just like pitfalls where they're like, look at me, tumble drill. Like it was just two guys falling down. But yeah, you're right. I do think that, listen, hey, Sammy, we never talk about the refs on the show. We never complain about the
No, I'm
refs on
talking
the
about
show.
it tonight. That was a joke.
But-
That's a joke.
well-
It's a huge missed call that leads to a pivotal moment in the game.
But
Immediately.
I don't know about you guys, but I actually do feel like the player especially matters. Like if Pontus Holmberg gets dragged down there, I'm like,
Yes.
whatever. It's Austin Matthews. He's 6'3". He's a mountain of a man, and he's the best player on either team. And you watched a full, like, that's the hip drop tackle that they just eliminated in football. They let him do it to Austin Matthews. I totally agree. I hated that. I really, really hated that.
Yeah,
My
you know,
only
it's different, right? Like I get this angle, but if you're the Leafs or the coach or whatever, you go in, you go, you know, they're not going to give it to us because we're up 3-1. We know that. We also didn't take advantage of our opportunities on the power play. You know, like it's not, you know what I'm saying? Like they would take the personal responsibility angle, but it's not fair or unfair to note that that's a penalty, obviously. I mean,
and it's not even about the power play because they clearly would not have scored on the power play because they're just chopping it to a square every time. It's about what that leads to. Like 30 seconds later, it's in the back of your net and the whole game changes. So
that being said, I will say in like defense of the officials, or to kind of move off of this topic, I do think that missed calls happen. And the ones where all of a sudden, like you say, the space-time continuum where the Leafs go and score that goal, those are the ones we remember, right? Like I'm sure there were plays in this game that if the Bruins coaching staff, right, like Jim Montgomery had that conversation with the officials in between periods when the Leafs duffed it and gave up their power play chance at the end of the second period. Like there's stuff that they're going to not be mad, that they're probably upset about that isn't getting called. This was a physical game. It probably goes two ways, but you're right. It's out of all the penalties in the game that had the biggest impacts or the non-calls, that was it. That being said, man, to me, like the story of the game is the Leafs power play. Like they're 0 for 5, but it's not even the way they go 0 for 5. Or sorry, it's not even just the fact they're 0 for 5. It's the way they go 0 for 5. How many times were they really threatening? There was the one opportunity that Bertuzzi had
plays where they had chaos at the net.
Yeah. Okay. So, Bourne, I want to go through this with you because what do they do? Like Timothy Liljegren is on the power play again. And I thought out of all the things that we had settled from the regular season, that seeing two blue liners and especially Timothy Liljegren out there was kind of put to bed. And they're at this point where they're getting desperate. Nothing's really working for this group. What are you seeing?
Honestly, you know, I was saying when they were struggling that they were hurt by Mitch Marner not being there because they were struggling on entries, and their entries were very good. I thought they got set up nicely, but then it would go to Mitch, who was on the power play, and he gave it right back to him. He chopped it up, handed it over. The one time he tries to skate it around the top of the zone like McDavid, when you just pass it to an open teammate. Like, you know, there was it. What stands out to me, JD, is in order to do sneaky things like the Kucherov fake slapper into the bumper or, you know, whatever sort of backdoor play, you have to be moving the puck around. So the D is, you know, changing coverages and changing their shape is how coaches phrase it. And right now it's like one guy holds it and waits and like looks for something backdoor or throws on. There's no movement, no energy to it. So yeah, it's got to move the puck around.
It just feels like there's absolutely no cohesiveness, that nobody knows where anybody's supposed to be. Like as much as their penalty kill is a fire drill, feels like their power play is a fire drill. Like the only time they get chances is when it like ends up on somebody's stick. It's not crisp passing. I watch these other power plays on the good teams and you like, I mean, Tampa's a different conversation. Like they're just a different thing. They're a historic power play, but the Bruins weren't very good all year and they're snapping it around. You look at like Florida. I mean, you look at all these teams that are really good. The Rangers, they're making these awesome passes and they're in the right spots and everybody's got a roll on it. And this baby's just chopped to a square, hope for a bounce. They're trying to dig it out of everybody's feet at all times. I just don't know. Like, I mean, Guy Boucher is supposed to be the guy that's like the ace of this. It's like, hey, how about you coach them to make a pass? Spread out and make a pass. It's so bad. It's so
been
bad.
Multiple guys, though, right? Like it's been multiple guys who've had their fingerprints on this power play. And when push comes to shove and you end up in the postseason, it looks like this. So
well, Carberry gets to take credit because last year it was actually good in the first round. He's the only guy that's ever got it.
In the first round, they were good in the first round. Like the one series that Toronto has won over their tenure, they scored goals. They scored goals. Their star player showed up and they picked apart a goaltender, and their power play was functional,
What
operational.
a concept. Oh my God.
But I just, listen, not to kind of go back to some old cliche stuff here, but I'll never forget that it used to be you can't take a penalty against the Leafs. Like, that's their enforcer. That's their enforcer. Like, you could take a penalty against the Leafs. You can do it. And Bourne, kind of to your point, what I'm seeing is also a little bit of Marner, that they try to run it through him, and he's not creating space the same way. I actually thought that he was a little bit in the third period. There'd be kind of some moments, but then when guys get a body on him, he's turning it over, or he's kind of rushing plays. Like, he just still feels like he's pushing the puck too quickly. That power play ends at the end of the second period, and they give up a 2-on-1, and Toronto takes a penalty shortly after, because Mitch just throws a grenade into Austin Matthews' skates at the very top of the zone where he has time and space. And my question for this is, how do you have Austin Matthews look as good as he looks 5-on-5, but then you can't get him to look good with an extra attacker? Like, that doesn't compute to me. And so, not to oversimplify, but you know who looked good on the half wall again tonight? You know who created the play and won a battle before the tip-in happened with Bertuzzi?
Yeah.
It's Max Domi. Like, he's one of the best passers in the league. He creates time and space for others. He's good on the half wall. At this point, I don't know what he's doing to not get in with this unit. Like, take Mitch out. Hell, take anybody out. Like, why is Liljegren there? Put in Max Domi. Give him a shot.
Yeah, that won't happen. Like, there's just
why?
Well, I fought against this concept all year long, that it's so ego driven that it's like, this is their team. This is those guys' team, and it can't be any other way. So I don't know, man. I listen, I don't think it's a bad idea. I've actually liked Bertuzzi on the power play. I think he's a nice addition and someone who should stick around. But yeah, everyone knows they're maybe a little over focused on Matthews. They don't seem to have a ton of other threats. And I think it's easier when Riley doesn't shoot it. Mitch is struggling. Tavares doesn't create his own shot. He needs Mitch to create that shot. It's like, it's looking for Matthews, and that's a challenge.
I really love Bertuzzi on the power play, because I feel like every good power play needs a guy that's going to hack a puck out, win a battle.
Yeah.
So many times that their power play just feels like one and dones, where they get a shot, the rebound comes out, Bruins win the battle, clear it out. And it feels like he actually has the ability to keep it in a little bit and win the puck back, Bertuzzi, once in a while. But I'm with you. Like, can you go into game 4 here and just first power play, you just run them over the boards again? Like, to me, this is where the biggest adjustment needs to be made, where like the Bruins got Maroon and they got JVR on the top unit. Like, make an adjustment here.
Yeah, getting all their power play time.
Just make an adjustment. You can't keep banging your head against the wall. It's killing them. But this to me, if they lose this series and they go all the way through, and I'm not panicking saying they're going to lose. It's clearly going to be a close series. But if they lose this series and they keep doing the power play and it keeps struggling, that will be really high on the list of the lack of adjustments that he made. That will really, really be tough for me to look back on.
Yeah,
because it's brutal.
What's crazy to me too, though, is like, they did make an adjustment and it made it better. They took Yarncroke off and they put Bertuzzi on. It's like, that worked. To me, I think that they're stuck in one little bit of a pickle with the power play, which is they'd probably like to have Tavares off the top unit, but they covet his face-off so much. Like, they really want him to be able to win draws back to Matthews.
Elite face-off guy, one of the 5 best in the league. Like,
that's it. So it's like, you can't remove him, but then once you win the draw, now that Bertuzzi is kind of the more net front guy that you like, Tavares' role in the power play isn't as strong. I'd almost like it if they just went win the draw and skate off and let Domi on, so that you can have the 2 guys that are playing from both sides of the half wall, and Marner and Domi, and maybe you can try to create something where those 2 guys are moving around a little bit. Like, again, I don't know.
Sure, Tavares.
I know he's not going
to call him off. He's gonna be like, no, obviously I'm not coming off. It's a tremendous honor for me to be on this top unit. I'm not coming off.
Yeah, you know what though? It drives me crazy about this stuff. It's like, the Boston Bruins have beat you every single time. Yeah. And one of their big calling cards is that they go leader to leader, and all these guys are willing to sacrifice. And like, oh yeah, Marchand shows up and he gets his moment in game 3. And yet with these guys, like these dudes who have not won a lick, they can't sacrifice some power play time. Well, like, they can't sacrifice for the greater good.
I don't know. Like, I'm with you. I could not be. You're doing that. I'm with you. This is exactly my complaint all year in our show, and I battle back against this. I don't know that they've been approached and turned it down. Like, it's tough to know what the circumstances are, or if the team is afraid to approach them, or what it is. But yeah, you don't see a lot of, I don't know, team before self in some cases.
Yeah.
Just you're 1 for 11 on the power play in the series. Like, you want to stay alive, you want to play moving forward. Guess what? Your percentages need to go up. They need to be a little bit better.
Jeez.
Yeah. 1 of 11. And again,
so, like, they got to start Swayman in game 4, right? I mean,
no
this
question.
guy is unbelievable.
Absolutely no question. Like, Swayman's their boogeyman. And I mentioned this on my podcast today. By the way, subscribe and review to this podcast if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Subscribe and review the JD Bunkis podcast and Real Kipper and Bourne, which Sam produces and Justin hosts. I think that this has happened in the past. They get this boogeyman thing, right? Like, they get this. The goaltender gets in their head.
One, didn't they? Wasn't he in Columbus?
Korpisalo has been in their head. Carey Price has been in their head. You know, like, they've go on down the line.
First year.
But at least Vasilevsky's the only goaltender that they've actually humanized. But this has happened to them, where it's like they start staring down a goaltender and they turn him into a deity. And it's like, yeah, maybe if you just score on a power play, you should probably feel a little bit more human if you start snapping some of them into the net.
Yeah. I mean, we don't need to get totally into this. We'll have 3 days to talk about this on our various shows, but I'm not totally convinced he's going with Swayman again.
I think that's
I mean, it seems so obvious. Of course, we all do, but it seems so obvious that he would go back to Swayman. But all this guy ever talks about, and he seems like, listen, I've been cutting his audio for 3 days. It's a hard-headed individual, and they talk all the time about this. They love Allmark, and they loved him after that game. Like, I would not be stunned if Allmark's in net on Saturday night. I would not be stunned. I hope it is, and I could look like an idiot, but I really have a funny feeling that they may go back to Allmark.
So last year, I think that's a fair take, Sammy. Last year, I wrote an article on sportsnet.ca about the shooting distance of the star players on the Leafs, their average shot distance in the regular season, and then I compared it to the playoffs. And by percentage, it was Matthews was closer to the net by 1%, Tavares was up 6%, Nylander up 9%, and Marner up 13.1%. I feel like that's happening again. I feel like they're not, like, Tavares and Marner are not getting to the usual areas to make Swayman's life hard, so he looks like this deity you're talking about.
Bro, can I say something on this? So they showed the Sports Logic stats, Bourne. Like, I know you get the email. Yeah. No, bring up your email, the Sports Logic email. Okay. There is no greater lie, in my opinion, than or at least deceiving statistic than the Sports Logic slot chances, because it makes it seem like, oh my God, they've had all these incredible, like, at the end of the second period, they had 7 slot chances. I went, where? I'm watching the whole game. I didn't. Yeah. Where are these coming from? How are they quantifying these things?
And like, they'll count a covered shot under pressure that doesn't get to the crease, you know?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm not trying this. People are going to turn this into like an anti-analytics take, but I'm just saying it actually feels so generous in terms of what they actually qualify as a slot chance and the actual, like, the way it sounds versus what it actually is. You go like, wow, Leafs had 7 slot chances. And then you watch the game. Like, if I showed you that tape, you'd go, yeah, I mean, I guess so. If I had to count them, I guess, is that one? You can't do is that one for slot chances. Here's my other thing from this game. I actually thought that the Bruins were chasing the Leafs around a little bit with the physicality. Like, Toronto played really within themselves. This was a bit of the Brad Tree-Living model of hockey around this team, where the fourth line was firing around again. And God, I got to tell you, as painful as the series is, I'm really just falling in love with Connor Dewar, like the most stereotypical Leaf fan ever, where I'm just like, you do everything.
John McDonald.
He really is. I am. I need a Sammy. You and I always come up with fan club nicknames for guys, but like, the
Doers dudes, boys.
Yeah, Doers, the Doers, the dudes. Yeah, the dudes, but spelled DEW. Like, that's what it is. It's the dudes. As a member of the dudes, I gotta say,
or we could go with the Paw Patrol.
Yeah,
because it's from the Paw.
I get it. Both are pretty good. Yeah, the dudes and the it's both are good. It's just that, I guess the Paw Patrol is more the hipster one, because it's like it's a deep cut.
You gotta know where he is. Where he's from.
Yeah, but the fourth line's out there and they're just like finishing checks. This was a record since 2018 for most checks in a hockey game through the first 2 periods, according to Sportsnet stats. Like there's a ton of hits in this game.
Yeah.
Toronto was finishing them. I thought that Edmondson had a presence in this game, right? Like Benoit's laying a huge hit. McCabe had a monster hit in this thing. And it was Boston that felt like they were starting to get a little squirrely at times. And what sucked too about that McAvoy penalty is I thought that was right when the peak of it was happening, when like Boston looked as though they were sort of just showing a little sign of losing their cool a touch. And then you see these two guys tripping over each other and then the puck goes in the back of the net. But I did like this for Toronto. Like they didn't felt like they were chasing the game. They didn't feel overly emotional. And yet they were like, again, physical, good, strong, disciplined game.
If I'm Sheldon Keefe talking to my hockey team going through this video, like I still feel good about things. You know, as you mentioned, I do think that they were as physical or more physical than the Bruins. I feel like they're as talented or more talented, and maybe you get Nylander back after this.
I'm not doing that again.
Not loving the goal against.
No, we're playing it for out. No Nylander. Like I'm not having the conversations through the lens of maybe we get this guy back. Oh, he's on the ice again every morning, looking great. Maybe he's back. Oh, he's doing extra work. I'm not
doing for work, buddy.
No,
hold on. I want to come back to that, Sam. I want to come back to that. Just Bourne, finish that thought. I want to come back to that.
I'll be honest, I have no idea what I was saying.
You were talking about Sheldon Keefe running the tape and the physicality of the team.
Oh, yeah,
and,
just
like,
the position they're in. I like it. Like, I think Samsonov actually made a lot of good saves early in the game. And even though those ones go in, you might want that back. They're not terrible. You know, he's been fine. There's a lot of reasons to believe, underlying numbers, talk about slot shots and all that. The Leafs carried a lot of the play tonight. I wouldn't be panicking in the Leafs dressing room about having to change a game plan too drastically. Have a decent power play. Let's talk special teams. Head into the next night.
Have a decent power play, and you need a little bit more finish. Like you just need a little bit more. Okay, Sammy, you mentioned the Nylander thing. This is my point of curiosity. Is
I got triggered about the Nylander thing as well.
Yeah, because everybody's triggered about the Nylander thing. Like, will he? Won't he? Is the worst game for all of professional sports, right? Like that is just insufferable. And you don't want to speculate about what it is, but I will tell you that my general theory, at least at this point, is the Leafs have put it in his hands, because why else would they be handling it this way? They're like, this isn't in the medical staff's hands, because the easiest thing for them to do would be going like, the doctors have said that he's unavailable to play in this game. And the head games part of it is like, is this really the head games? Are you really impacting the Boston Bruins? You know who I think the head games could be affecting? The Leafs, because of what you just said, Sam, where they're going, oh, are we getting Willie back in the lineup tonight? Oh, he's skating. He's taking line rushes. Hey, Willie, you back? Like, are you coming into the series? And then,
like the guys may know.
Do they? You think they do? They?
Yeah, I do.
Why is he at line rushing?
He's around the dressing room, like they'd be seeing him, asking him. He's on the ice, like they would have a sense if he's in or out. I do think that a lot of it is just we want them to prepare for 2 game situations. I don't know if it makes a difference. Probably doesn't.
I don't know. I don't think Jim Montgomery's in his office right now being like, oh no. We got to prepare guys to make the 2 different game plans. I think he's running his guys out there pretty much the same.
I'm at the point of this where it's like, I'm at the point of it where they could tell me he's playing and I'm still going into it. Him, he's not playing. Like, this has broken my brain so much that the way they're handling it is so, and you're right. Like, he's banged up. Like, he's not in there tonight. It's like, well, maybe he'll play. It's been 3 straight practices of he could play tonight, and then he doesn't. It's like, it's driving everybody crazy.
This one was different because he actually joined a line.
Yeah, but he joined a line the first. Like, what are we talking about? He joined a line the one time too. Like, it's like he joined a line. He was wearing a blue jersey at practice, and they said he might play for the 3rd straight goddamn practice. I don't care. Like, I'm triggered. I'm absolutely triggered.
He might take warm up then not play. He's just an inch closer.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the good news is, if you're on Nylander watch, is now they've got the extra day off, because Jim Montgomery cried about it and said that this is the real home ice advantage, is the extra night in Toronto where there isn't a game, and use it. Use it. Are you guys, I want to talk about home ice. Leafs have lost 5 straight games at home in the playoffs. It's the first time since the 1990. So yeah, that's not great. Whatever. Let's do it. The lower bowl tonight was disgraceful. Like, it was pure pain to watch on television. Like, I saw basically, You know, it's bad when you can pick out the guys who are standing up and trying to get the section going. Like, it was actually so bad early on in that hockey game that I found it distracting as a viewer. I just don't understand what those people are doing at the games. Like, why are you even going? Like, what's the point if you like hockey so little that you don't even want to stand and cheer during any play? You don't want to provide any noise. You don't want to get off your cell phone. You don't want to participate in a Go Leafs Go chant. Like, why go? Like, what is it? You want the Instagram feature? Like, is it like when people go to these travel destinations and they want to take a picture? Like, what's the point? Because the 300 section was clearly loud. You could hear them throughout the broadcast. It looked like they're pumping in sound, though, because the only people that you can actually see that they're panning to across are all sitting and completely silent. And the only times that they got on their feet was when there were a couple of hits in the first period and then during the goals. But outside of that, like, it's a ghost town in there. So anyway, I'm frustrated by it. I do think it's annoying. Of course, I want the millionaire hockey players to show up and give them something to cheer about, but like, it genuinely does. Like, you look at these other Canadian markets where it feels like a real advantage being in that arena, the energy that just gets on top of the opposing team. And it just doesn't, Toronto doesn't have that, like, flat out. And I guess they should just get over hoping that they ever will.
I mean, it's a great rant, and I think it's well said. I got conflicting reports from people DMing me after I sent my snarky Buffalo tweet.
Yeah, no, it's always loud to the people who are there. You know why?
In there, it's electric.
You know why? You know why they think it's electric? Because they've never been to another arena. Go to a hockey game. Go to a Leafs Edmonton Oilers game. Your mind is gonna be blown. You'll lose your mind. You have no idea what you're entering. You'll be like, "Is this illegal? Like, is this something? Like, is this allowed?" No, it was not loud in there. Like, anybody who says that. Sorry, it might have been loud up in the 300s.
I got two rebuttals to this. One, you came into this game ready to criticize this. You were so impressed by Vancouver and Winnipeg. You were like, that barn better be rocking. You had stated ahead of the game. So you had eyes on this early. So you were prepared for it. And every time it started tonight, the Leafs let it get away. So they started to boo Swayman and Samsonov gets scored on. And they started to chant when it happened 3 times in the game where the energy was up, you know, the big hit shift or whatever, and the Bruins go back the other way and get one. Like, every time they had it, they lost it tonight.
Yeah, like, there's clearly a reason that I think there's clearly the lower bowl has some well-off people in it, and there's obviously.
Hey, by the way, I do want to agree it's worse.
Yeah. But I think a lot of there is definitely some of it where it's like, the business meeting down there, the sushi and red wine, that is definitely part of it. But I also think there are some extreme scars with this team where they've let them down millions of times in the past. And it's a chicken and the egg thing here. There's a real chicken and the egg situation.
Vancouver and Winnipeg. Winnipeg, the team that was stolen from that city. And Vancouver with Winnipeg, all of their Stanley
only
Cup.
shows up in the playoffs? Like, the only time you ever go to a game is when they wear white? Is that
you go to Vancouver and you're like, oh my God, city of champions, all the Stanley Cups, all the memories of Vancouver's Cups. Like, it's Canada. Everybody has
a playoff game in 9 years, bud. There's a playoff. So there's a heartbreaking playoff game at Scotiabank Arena every single year. They have some scars.
Yeah.
I'm not excusing them. I'm just telling you.
Sounds like you are.
There's some scars, buddy, and the holes get pretty tight in there, and it happens quick. So
it was 0-0. The first period, there wasn't a noise in the entire arena.
I agree. I'm just saying there's a chicken in the egg here, bud.
Yeah,
there's a chicken in the egg.
I know we're on Sportsnet 590 The Fan right now, too.
I don't think we are.
I always forget. Oh, no, we're not. We're not on the radio. Damn it. Because I was going to say, I hope there's just some rich guy that was like, driver, put on the radio. And then he got cooked by me. I hope that happened. Jeeves, what is this? Is he talking about me? Is he talking about us?
Take me to the share club.
Yeah. Anyways, I had a seat for tonight and I couldn't go because of this game. So maybe you
would have made the difference.
Yeah, like I could have gone to this game and I couldn't go because of Leafs talk and I would have been loud. Okay, I would have been loud. I would have mixed in a Go Leafs Go chant.
There was one after I sent that rude tech tweet. I almost followed up because when Tavares came in over the line and he wristed one off the crossbar, like early in the first period, there's literally a guy in the front row being like, yeah, and it hits the post. He's like, what happened? Like, literally in the front row, like of the playoff hockey game. You probably don't see it in this angle. I'm not sure if you're going to or not, but he's just like oblivious. I'm like, come on, bro. That's a tough look for the Leafs barn. I can tell
Anyway,
you.
I don't want to make this seem like I'm not trying to turn this take into like the Leafs lose at home because the fans aren't winning.
No,
Like,
no, we need to turn the page on this. The
no,
point,
but I know. I'm just saying it's obviously it's not that. Like, I don't believe that. I think the players are paid to perform, and you're right, Bourne. Like the chicken and the egg thing, and the scars, and all this different stuff. But to me, it's like that. What I've settled in on, and what I've been discussing a bunch on my show is, I think the thing that bothers me is there are drawbacks to playing in a Canadian market. There just are, right? Like, I don't know, we can admit it. And Toronto is Canada, as much as some people might push back to that notion every once in a while. But when you watch Vancouver and you watch Winnipeg or you watch Edmonton, you see the other Canadian markets, Montreal, Calgary, whatever, when they host playoff games, you get that feel, like you get that payoff of going like, oh, right, it matters more here. And so you feed off that energy. Every player I've ever spoken to, and I've spoken to many, as have you guys, has told me that the crowd matters, that they feed off the energy in those moments. And so the fact that you're a Canadian market that doesn't get the benefit of home ice energy of a Canadian market, when you have actually, in my opinion, the most passionate fan base out of all of them, like, you meet Leaf fans, it's like they are lunatics. They care so deeply about this team. Like, let them in. Find a way. It just sucks that they can't get in the building.
First serve night, baby. First come, first serve night.
my
The
God.
loudest building in the world.
I was gonna say, like, let the boys down.
Let the mutants in. Let the mutants in.
Train. Let the mutants sleep outside.
Call Oshawa.
so I got
Call Whitby. Call Georgetown,
Mimico.
baby.
Get Mimico in the building. We need him in the building. Anyway, I'll finish with this. It's just, I've gone too long. I get it. And I just, it's frustrating. And okay. Anything else from you guys? Any rapid fires?
Yeah.
I do. I got one quick thing for you.
Yeah.
So I got my fancy report from Sport Logic.
Oh, they can say your dork report card. Eh?
105 slot shots for the Leafs tonight.
At even strength, the expected goals, the Leafs led 1.78 to 1.6. So they've got a narrow lead. When you factor in power plays, it was 3.39 to 3.36. So with the 5-1 power play advantage, it got worse. So I'm just saying their power play was so bad, it affected their expected goals negatively in terms of differential.
That is, remarkable.
Yes,
that is crazy. You know, when they would do the thing about like, hey, if there was the rule about the power play or the penalty shot, it's like, you imagine
all penalty shots.
Yeah.
But then it'll be Marner skating in slowly and trying to go backhand, forehand. We'd be like, get the power play out there, please, God. I do have a quick note that Brad Marchand just crammed all over my face today. He crammed.
Big time.
Like 360 jam. I'm going up for the block, and he just landed one on me. Killed him on Real Kipper and Bourne today. Called him a diver. Called him a whiner. Every name in the book. I was rude. And he just dunked on me. And he's a dog. The guy's a dog. This is a massive game for his team. He'd been quiet through 2 games at home. Comes into the opposing building and just puts his nuts on the table. And he scores a massive goal. Gets an assist. Gets the empty netter. He made me look like an idiot. So kudos to Marchand. Awesome night for him.
Yeah. To me, it's just, again, it's like we can, like, all the joking aside about the fans and Samsonov lets in a bad one tonight, whatever, like all the Marchand, all this different stuff. It's like this whole series is that the Leafs are 1 of 11 on the power play and the Bruins are 5 of 10. Like, there you go.
Goaltending a little part of that too. I'll say the one thing from the vibe standpoint, I thought the Leafs had a real chance to be in Boston's kitchen the way that it's usually flipped. I thought you see the coaches complaining to the referee. You see Pasternak's frustrated. He hasn't scored. He's taking penalties. It started to feel good for the Leafs vibes to lose that one then and let them back in it. That hurt.
Bernie, that's what I was talking about earlier, like right before the Matthews goal. Is like they were getting squirrely. Boston was starting to run around a little bit and chased it. And I went, I was the Leonardo DiCaprio meme going like, I recognize this. That's what the Leafs do. This is what they do. This is us. We do this. You're doing the thing that the Leafs do. And I got excited. And then boom, all of a sudden the puck was in the back of the net. Sorry, Sammy, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. And Marchand scores that empty netter. And I know we probably don't have the highlight of it. But Yarncroc, could you just give him a shot? Like, could you just set the tone a little bit? He scores. He skates right underneath you. It's a playoff series. He's the most hated man in the building. Could you just give him a little shot? Could you just look at him dirty? Could you do something? Like, you don't have to do anything stupid, but just maybe a little Like, just make it seem like you're pissed off.
Closest thing to a hockey robot. That
I know, but is it just too much to ask? You don't need to go Dale Hunter on him, but just give him a little something.
Yeah.
That's
I think after the Morgan Riley thing, they're probably a little more unlikely to do that stuff. But I actually think with Marchand too, that like there's a little bit of you hit him and he only gets stronger. If you're Yarncroc and you give him that
cold stunner.
Yeah, like I don't think that's working the way you want it to, kind of thing. You're almost giving him life. He knows it's working. Anyway, now Marchand give the Leafs all the compliments, and then he came out and dunked. It's the worst. It's the worst combination.
He's the man.
Of
he is the absolute man. And he was a Toronto Maple Leaf. He'd be the most popular Leaf in the history of the franchise. He is he's just the man. He's the absolute man.
Oh, Matthew
breaks my heart. Oh, he was. Yeah, good, nice goal. Didn't get murdered, so good for him. He avoided a murder tonight, so good on him.
He did get hit. He did still get knocked to his behind, which has happened a lot. I mean, like
it's going to happen once, but it wasn't like 3 crippling blows in one game. Like what's last time?
This was a good play. Like
I'm happy for Marner that this happened because I thought otherwise he stunk tonight, maybe worse than the other games. So glad at the moment.
I actually had one other nice Marner moment where he eluded a couple of guys in the third period after he made his own entry. And then he did the typical thing of and then he turned it over right after. It's like when the Bruins get a body to him, like once you close that distance, he's just not separating from guys the same way, right? Like he's just not creating space.
Not skating.
Yeah, they're not afraid to try to close the gap, like, and just go in and take away his airspace and think it's going to punish them. Like
now I'm hearing ankle. People are talking about his ankle now.
Oh
yeah. I bet I would be too if I was him. I'd be bringing it up all the time.
Putting up press releases.
I just know that when I play basketball, anytime like I miss the shot, like I come down, I'm like, ooh, I start doing a little fake limp.
Buddy, I had a high ankle sprain like 5 years ago, and I still reference that. So I know Marner's game. It's like, oh, it's raining, my ankle's marking.
I will say this, that it's probably partially true here. Like he's likely not fully himself because of the ankle injury, but it is a little bit more than that. That is pretty frustrating with the play. And even on a night like tonight where he makes it, I'm with you, Bourne. Like I actually went the opposite because I was kind of hoping that this was going to be a night that you could do a little bit of the zag with Marner. I really paid attention going, let me just focus in on his game and try to find the good stuff.
Me too, man.
And
I was trying.
Yeah. I couldn't come up with a lot.
Ankles don't turn pucks over.
Anyway, if you're still watching this, please hit the thumbs up on YouTube if that's where you've chosen to do this. It helps us out. If you leave a comment, both those things, they take 2 seconds. It's super simple. Same thing with following this podcast, sharing it on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, at JT Bourne, at Sammy McKee, and at JD Bunkis. You can reach out anytime. Thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. And we will see you after an extended period of time now. God, it's going to be basically
can't
forever.
Wait to talk
Saturday
about this
night.
one for 3 nights. Sick.
Yeah. Thanks. Enjoy the narratives on our other podcast. We'll see you soon.